Classical Conversation Studios presents Refining Rhetoric with CEO Robert Bortons, a podcast where faith, business, politics, and classical education meet. Join us as we use the classical tools of rhetoric to seek truth in every arena of life.
Today I'm interviewing my friend, my colleague, and the host of the final segment of this show, Will McCreery. When Will isn't trading cryptocurrency in his free time, he's working on Classical Conversations as the head of our Odyssey program and our Classical Conversations Plus program. Will, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Robert. Pleasure to be here.
You mentioned in your first segment of Classical Crypto that you are a Classical Conversations graduate. What about that experience continues to shape you today?
Yeah, I had the privilege of going through CC in high school. So my freshman through senior year, I took Challenge A through Challenge 2. Really have the unique perspective of seeing, homeschooling before CC and then after CC. Graduating CC launched me out with a perspective to dig a little bit deeper with the dialectic and rhetoric. So I got past that grammar and I was taught how to not just view a subject through kind of a what lens, but look beyond it to the why and the how. And I'll be forever grateful for that outlook that CC provided me with.
That's awesome. And I love how, you did it junior or freshman through high school senior year, but you did A through 2. And it just goes to show why they're named Challenge, because they don't necessarily have to go through Challenge 4 to get a great education. You went on to college and got a degree successfully.
I sure did. Got a business degree.
So you can go from Classical Conversations to get a college degree. And of course, we know that here, but I know parents are always excited to hear about that. We talked about Classical Conversations Plus and the Odyssey program. So can you tell us a little bit about what those two programs are, how they're similar, and how they're different?
Absolutely. I've been working on these two programs over the last 4 years. Let's start with the Odyssey program. It is Classical Conversations' official dual enrollment program. So students Challenge 2 through Challenge 4 can go through their challenge coursework and at the same time be duly enrolled at a college university and get credit for that. So it's a tremendous opportunity to knock out college early. Some of these students are graduating with an associate's degree. It's tremendous. It's easy on the pocketbook, but at the same time, they're building a college transcript, which is fantastic.
And that's the CC Plus program?
Yeah, that's the CC Plus program. And then after that, the Odyssey program is CC's gap year program. So students have the opportunity to go one more year, continue on with SEU, Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida. And we'll probably get into that, I'm guessing, a little bit later. But it's kind of a gap year. It's a transition between high school and college. And it's been just a wonderful program so far.
Is that in Florida, or where do students have to be for that program?
It's an online program. Yeah, the college is in Florida, but they're taking classes from home.
Okay. And they get together and do 3 trips, 4 trips together, experiences? Tell us about those.
Yeah, we can dig into the Odyssey program. So again, we like to say Challenge 5 for Odyssey. Maybe we're technically not supposed to, but students from around the U.S. are in this program together. They're meeting over Zoom. There's 5 classical development areas. So they're getting leadership training, practical development. They're learning how to communicate. They're learning how to build a budget, build a resume, build a LinkedIn profile. So a lot of practical application is taught from a trivium classical perspective. And at the same time, they're taking, like you're saying, Robert, those academic classes online through SEU from their home. They have the opportunity to travel on 4 amazing excursions around the U.S. There's different themes. We have a history theme, an art themed trip, as well as a community trip. There's a trip out here to North Carolina where students can see headquarters, hear our Classical Conversations, meet the Bortons. It's really a beautiful gap year program, and it's $10,000. So we're beating most of the other gap year programs out there.
That's awesome. How long has this been going on, and what type of feedback have you received from the students?
Absolutely. So we are going into our 3rd year. Many of the students have already transferred on to other destination colleges. We've had students transfer into Hillsdale, several into GCU, and some others. Their feedback has mainly been geared around, thank you so much. Odyssey was a bridge between my parents' household and college. And those students that are in college now are like, wow, this is this is much different. And it was so helpful to have some practical, skills before we left, and to be able to look at finances and not start from ground zero. So they're just saying it was a lot of practical help and really a really nice transition. I'd say that's the big thing with Odyssey, is it's a nice transition to the next stage of their lives.
That's awesome. Transitioning over to Classical Conversations Plus, what do you hear from those students as far as not just the experience taking Classical Conversations classes for college credit, but also their confidence in transitioning into a college if that's the route they go into?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the students are nervous getting into it, right? You're a sophomore, you're in challenge 2. Usually there's a lot of nerves like, oh, college, will I make it? And not long into it, they will get feedback and they're like, what, this is a college class? Like what I'm doing for CC is 10 times harder. So I'd say their confidence levels are very high after going through Classical Conversations Plus. College is a breeze for most of them. And, we get nothing but thank yous back going, hey, you guys set us up very well. So that there's a lot of gratitude that comes back to us.
And, how many classes does a typical student take per semester? Are they taking 5 or are they typically taking 1 or 2?
We've tracked that data over the last 5 years. They're typically taking 2, 3 credits in the fall, 3 credits in the spring. You have students that will take 5 or 10 and knock out a bunch. So it's nice that there's that opportunity, but we usually encourage 2 to 3 classes a year, just kind of get your feet wet. And then if you start in challenge 2, hey, by the time you graduate 4, those add up and you're in great shape.
Yeah, that's awesome. Obviously, college and higher education they've risen in cost. A lot of people argue that the value that you receive for that cost has gone down. And a lot of times the education they're receiving isn't really on a level of maturity or spiritual level that we see in some of those challenge classes. What do you see in our students that take CC Plus and being able to go to college and decrease their debt? Is that something that you've heard from them?
Oh, 100%. We got the greatest testimony last year of a student who transferred in, and he had maybe a little bit more of not an overachiever, but he had definitely applied himself, transferred into, I believe it was GCU. And the enrollment counselor told him, she looked him in the eyes, was like, dude, you saved $43,000 by going through what was the program? And he's like, oh, it's CC Plus, and this is what we've done. But that's real money that they're saving. And I'd say typically the savings is probably closer to $10,000 to $15,000, based off our, 2 classes a year. But yeah, we're getting all kinds of feedback from parents and students alike with big savings.
And, there's a lot more businesses now that hire people without a college degree. We're an education company, but it's always funny how many people we have that work here that don't have a higher education, quote unquote. What would you say is one of the benefits of going to college? I mean, we're both college degreed individuals and we enjoyed it. So what are some of those things that you see that are beneficial?
Absolutely. And there's a case both ways, right? We know that. But focusing on what's beneficial, the day that I got my business degree, I had 5 job opportunities through LinkedIn. That was just amazing to get that piece of paper and boom, all of a sudden I had opportunities. So just, that's one of them. The other thing is I've been in education for 6 years. So even before I worked for Classical Conversations, I was always in dual enrollment and giving pitches. And one unique story is I was pitching one night at a house and there were probably 20 people there. And afterwards, I was approached by 2 gentlemen in the trades, a gentleman who was a plumber, he was a dad, and a gentleman who was an electrician, both super nice guys. And the plumber came up to me and he's like, hey, thanks, but college is diminishing. I don't see a need for it anymore. I've made $50,000 for the last 20, 30 years. My son's going into this. I'm good. And I was like, hey, that's fair. The trades are fantastic. The electrician came and talked to me and he's like, do you know what? I've been stuck making $50,000 to $60,000 for the last 30 years. I can't go into the back office. So even though my son's going into a trade, there's a lot of degrees where a lot of fields where you need a degree, but he was going, you know what? My son's going into a trade. He's going to take these classes because I need him to have a degree to get into the back office. There's accounting he needs to learn. There's specialties that he needs to learn from a college. He needs those core classes and he needs that piece of paper to advance. And I think a lot of that is applicable today.
Yeah, I think with families, you just got to keep it in the right frame of mind and why you're doing things. And, college derived from the word, collegiate and colleague, and an opportunity to really learn together as a group. And of course, we've seen more and more institutions kind of getting away from that and catering to just, hey, look at our pools or look at these things that don't necessarily contribute to their curricular achievements. So in the Odyssey program, what are some of the benefits there? So if you've taken, say, a handful of CC Plus courses, is it still beneficial to go into Odyssey?
First of all, it's a seamless transition. The college that they're gaining credit from in Challenge 4 in CC Plus is the college we're using in Odyssey. So they're already familiar with that LMS system, sometimes with the professors. Sometimes they're really excited to continue with SEU, like, oh, I'm already, I know people there, I know people online, the professors, so it's a seamless transition. And you're building on the same transcript. So I'd say just the seamless nature of that transition has been super helpful.
Back to some testimonies from some Odyssey graduates. Have any of them gone into the trades or become entrepreneurs and skipped the college route after going into Odyssey?
I've been amazed at how many of the students have gone on to a destination college. And I think by that time, they're like, wow, I have an associate's degree almost for free, right? After they've gone through both programs, CC Plus and Odyssey. So that could be a factor. One of them has pursued an entrepreneurial route and he's working in media and he's been set up just fine. So in that case, a lot of those development areas that he worked on have really helped him, the leadership and some of those life skills that he was taught. So it goes both ways.
Of course, almost free in the sense of the cost of a college tuition versus a cost of doing some CC Plus courses, and the Odyssey are significantly different, but not free.
True.
Correct. You said how much was the Odyssey program?
Odyssey program is $10,000.
And that's for 9 months, 12 months? What's the length of the program?
Yeah, we can break that out. So it's nine months. So think of it as 2 college semesters in a way. But that's a great value. I mean, they're traveling on 4 excursions where, their flights, food, experiences are all included in that $10,000. Their SEU courses, they can take up to 10 courses, which is a full load of college. That's 30 credits. That's included in the $10,000. There's just a couple additional resources they pay for. So there might be, $40 in books, but the value there is very vast.
And for those who don't know, on the CC Plus courses, how much are those running these days?
Yeah, $500.
Per credit hour or for total per course?
Total. Yeah, credit hour is less than that. When we look at College Board, when we look at the average cost of a course in general, especially from my 4-year, I think that's coming in at around $3,000. I believe the SEU courses on campus are close to that number. So we're very grateful for Megan Griffin and everyone over there who works has been very good to us and our students, and they love us, we love them, are grateful for the opportunities that they're providing.
Now, what's CC Plus versus maybe going to community college? In your mind, what are the differences between those two opportunities? Because I know a lot of families think, oh, I'm going to send them to community college and get an AA and knock out some courses and save some money that way. So what's the difference in your mind?
Yeah, the biggest difference, Robert, I'd say is the quality, right? A lot of people leave in Challenge because they're like, oh, free college, free opportunity down the street. I got to go for this. Many of them call us back and they're like, man, it really wasn't free. Everything from parking passes to the influence on my students, the quality of work. Oh my goodness. I mean, some, English comp always comes back and they're like, wow, like they're just requiring a paragraph for a paper. Like, what is this? My kid was writing 4 or 5 page papers and in Challenge A, like this is crazy. So it's definitely a sacrifice in quality, I must say. That comes to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't necessarily know what the professor's worldview is, and are they degrading all the effort that you've put in and sacrificed as a family?
Yeah. So there's a cost to free, right? I mean, that's kind of what we come up with. There is a cost to free.
Absolutely. Now you're doing our end segment, classical crypto. So you've become interested in money, and I know that we've talked about finances, especially as a young man and starting your family. What awakened that in you?
Yeah, when I was 14, I needed to raise some money for a missions trip I needed to go on. And at the time, I was mowing lawns. So I'd go to your house, Robert, and go, hey, pay me $20 and I'll mow your lawn. And I was doing jobs for individuals. And the Lord brought something to mind. He's like, hey, pour all your efforts into one project that multiple people could buy. And that's a principle that I started learning at that young age. And I put out an album, just a piano album with some background orchestra sounds on iTunes, and made $2,600. And it was really eye-opening. That was just so much money to me at that time. It allowed me to go on that missions trip and put some money towards school and a car. And that's where that's where I started getting interested in finance and learning about it from a biblical perspective.
Awesome. And, the Bible says a lot about finances and being good stewards. So how would you encourage someone to talk to their children about finances and money, and maybe some lessons you learned growing up or lessons that you've learned as a young adult?
Yeah, money gets a bad rap, doesn't it, in a lot of Christian circles?
They confuse the love of money for exchanging goods and services and having something that you can do that easily and facilitate that with, right?
100%. That's always what my dad talked about. It's the love of money is the root of all evil, right? And we get caught in the grammar of that. Oh, money's bad. No, the love. Where's your heart? Is money your master or is Jesus your master? So at a foundational level, I think that's the check is who's your master? There's nothing wrong with money. Think of the parable of Jesus and the servants, right? The tokens, where he gave 1 to one servant, 3 to another, 5 to another, and 10. I might be butchering the story a little bit, but the emphasis was stewardship. Are we stewarding the value that God gives to us? And are we stewarding it well? So I don't think anything's wrong with that. If God hated money, it'd be distributing 1 or 2 tokens equally to each of those servants, right? And condemning them. But no. He wants, where's your heart? And are you using this for my glory? So I'd say those 2 factors is seeing money a different way. Where's my heart? And then how am I using this value? I don't even really like the word money. I see money as value and opportunity. The more value that you steward, the better things you can do for the kingdom of God and for those around you. So those are just a couple things that stand out to me.
Now you've been on the podcast, the final segment, talking about cryptocurrency, but tell us a little bit about how you got into that.
So at first I thought it was kind of fraudulent. It was like, man, I think I'm going to get burned on this. So I kind of, with fear and intrepidation, approached the whole industry, but soon was very intrigued, made some earnings that were significant for me, starting from nothing. But really, when I started digging into it, just the decentralized nature of it, where it wasn't regulated by a centralized bank who could mess with the supply. When I really started learning about Bitcoin and some of these things, and you have to go deep. At surface level, it looks really sketchy and there's lots of questions, and I understand that. But when you start looking at it from all different sides and you see the different aspects that are decentralized and stable and not controlled by one body of people, it just got really intriguing to me. So I really like the industry. There's autonomy there, right? There's self-government in that industry. There's a battle to face because it can go either way. China has a blockchain system that is centralized, so there's a battle to fight in the US for our freedoms. But I think it's a way for individuals to change their lives for the better if they really study it. So it's intriguing, and I'm really excited to be a part of the industry.
Yeah, this is not financial advice. You have to go to a financial advisor for that.
Of course.
How has your view of cryptocurrency shaped like the love of money? Do you see a lot of people in the industry kind of having that attitude? And then how do you kind of fight that in an industry that's so volatile?
That's a really good question. And I'd have to say yes. A lot of people in the industry are chasing that dollar, that money, that crypto value at the end of the day, which is tough, to have a whole industry based around money. But I just lay out my goals. There's things that God wants me to do with my finances, whether small or large. And me as an individual, I just got to keep that in the forefront. That's our job before God.
And ultimately, crypto is really Web 3.0. It's kind of a different way to program and a different way to look at technology than the current web is set up. Is that accurate?
It is a different way to look at the industry. I mean, take a large platform like Facebook, if I can name drop, right? It's centralized, it's governed, they control what their users are doing, they control their data. It's not built by a community. Now, with crypto and decentralized finance, we have the opportunity to build platforms and websites and companies together. There's more autonomy, self-government. I like being the steward of my money, of my resources, right? Of my energies. And it's more customizable too, right? It's not someone saying, hey, you have to do this and this is the way it's going to look and this is the direction we're going to go. We're going to channel you this direction. No, Web3 is all about individuals coming together, building experiences that are free, that promote freedom and growth as a result. So it's really an exciting industry to be a part of.
Awesome. Well, make sure that you don't miss any of the classical crypto with Will at the end of any of our podcasts. And, you can check out our CC Plus program and the Odyssey program if you want to learn more. What website should they go to?
Yes, classicalconversationsplus.com.
And that's PLUS plus.
Yes, sir. That's it.
Not the symbol. So we like to have long URLs here at Classical Conversations, but that's how it goes. Anyways, thank you so much, Will, for being on the show today. Be sure to stay tuned for his next episode of Crypto with Will later in this podcast. Starting out in 2023, I want to review the 15 tools of learning that we subscribe to at Classical Conversations. It's a thing that we reference in this podcast because we want to help you think about the world around you in a way that will help you come to conclusions faster and more accurately and be able to understand why things are happening and what those potential implications are in the future for what's going on today. And these tools you can use throughout your entire life. Part of this podcast is just practicing these tools, seeing how they are used throughout your day, even if it's something that you're not focused on. But having these tools in your tool belt will help you not just educate your own children, but be a better father or wife, co-worker, boss, supervisor, preacher, whatever role you have in this world to glorify the Lord. These tools will help you out. And so let's review those because it's been a while since we reviewed all 15 of them. And so the first is the 5 core habits of grammar, the repetition that builds knowledge. And this is what we use for K through 6th graders. It's also even adults use these tools when they're learning something new. And they are naming, attending, memorizing, expressing, and storytelling. Naming is knowing the appropriate word. Attending is differentiating the word from other known ideas. Memorizing is remember the definition to build a knowledge base. Expressing is using the body and sense to share knowledge. And storytelling is the use of words, specifically written or spoken, to share knowledge. And so I have 3 kids right now that are 8 and under, and we use these tools all the time. And I can see how my, especially like 2.5-year-old, we're doing a lot of naming right now as we're trying to teach him to, what colors are, does he need to use the restroom, just going to bed and putting together, brushing his teeth and toothpaste and squeezing the tool. So all of those are examples of either naming or attending that we use with our 2.5-year-old. In the 5 common topics of dialectic, those are the questions that develop understanding. And so this is kind of starting in like 5th, 6th grade to really like 9th and 10th grade. And that's definition, comparison, relationship, circumstance, and testimony. So definition is discovering what something is. Comparison is discovering similarities first, then differences. Relationships, discover cause and effect. Circumstances, discover what else is happening at the same time in other places. And testimony, discover what others are saying. And so we know that this world is interconnected. Of course, we've all heard of the butterfly theory. Don't necessarily subscribe to that, But as we grow in our education and our knowledge, once we have that memorization, that base, that strong foundation, then we can use that to see what's going around us. We can compare things that are going on and discover those relationships. And so, we are into a new Congress, new Senate this year, and they're going to have ideas. They're going to present different ways that they think the government should be run. And you can use these tools specifically, like, are these new ideas? Are these old ideas? And what has happened in the past when these ideas were tried to put into fruition? And so those are ways to really use these tools and help have a good conversation, not about personality, but about policy. In the 5 canons of rhetoric, the artifact that demonstrates wisdom, those are memory, invention, arrangement, style, and delivery. So memory is the flooding of words and sensory to stimulate association with an idea. Invention is the asking of the questions through the 5 common topics. So you can see that invention is actually what we just talked about, a lot of those 5 common topics: the definition, comparison, relationship, circumstance, and testimony. Then we've got arrangement, the sorting of invention into organized thought; style, the choosing the best way to present your thoughts; and delivery, the practicing of presenting the best thoughts. So, of course, this podcast is a way of myself practicing this delivery, and hopefully you've noticed an improvement in this first year, as we had episodes every other week for a full year, and at least a full year as far as when we got started in March. And then this year, we're going to be going to a weekly show, which we're super excited about, where we will practice these tools of learning together, as well as interviewing great guests. And guess what? We'll be switching over to video. Of course, you'll still be able to listen to audio, but we'll also start streaming it on YouTube. And of course, we'll do other platforms as time goes on. So be sure to check us out weekly in 2023, and we'll continue to practice these 15 tools of learning together and having a little bit of fun.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortons. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation, and visit classicalconversations.com/rhetoric to find out how you can join a local homeschool community.